Mamallapuram is a place of riddles. At the edge of the vast Bay of Bengal, mysterious temples brood over the sands. Massive cliffs of carved stone and shrines cut from giant boulders are scattered along the shore. The monuments at Mamallapuram are among the oldest in India's south. But who built them and why? Why were many of them never finished? Some answers to its riddles lie in the history of the era. Mamallapuram was commissioned by kings of the Pallava dynasty who ruled between the 6th and the 8th century. The 7th century king Mahendravarman, portrayed in a cave temple with his 2 queens, was both a warrior and a patron of art. Mahendravarman left us this important musical inscription, 4.5 meters long and 1 meter high, describing 7 ragas or musical modes. The detailed musical notations suggest that the king himself may have played the veena. A musician and playwright, he was also an innovative builder, introducing the rock-cut cave temple to southern India. The technique, cutting a complete temple inside the solid rock of a mountain, had been practiced in western India for 600 years by Buddhists, but was unknown in the Pallava region. Many of Mahendra's temples, like the cave temple in the rock at Trichy, were built on water. Water for crops was important to the prosperity of the Pallava kingdom. The Pallava kings filled their treasuries, built their temples, and waged their wars on the taxes derived from trade and agriculture. Ancient Pallava inscriptions speak of elaborate arrangements for constructing and maintaining irrigation works. Water was the key to wealth, and wealth the key to building temples. And water would continue to be important as the Pallavas extended their trade and military alliances overseas to Sri Lanka and Southeast Asia. On the coast, there was a town called Mamallapuram, or Town of the Great Hill. Mahendra's son Narasimhavarman, the first Pallava ruler to build there, deepened its harbour for his military fleets and overseas trading vessels. Nicknamed Mamalla, or the Great Warrior, for his military exploits, the king perhaps renamed the town for himself. This astonishing work, carved on a cliff 31 meters wide and 15 meters high, is most likely a Mamalla commission. In the upper left, the god Shiva appears to an ascetic who is performing a penance, a time-honored way of seeking spiritual insight or power. Some think the figure is Arjuna, a hero of the great epic, the Mahabharata, whose penance led Shiva to grant him the use of his own powerful sword. A second tale from the Mahabharata appears nearby. Too lazy to chase the rats around him, this penance-performing cat has cunningly deluded them into approaching him without fear. The ancient text tells us of the sad fate that overtook these trusting rats. But another story in the Mahabharata concerns Bhagiratha, whose penance induced the sacred river Ganges to flow from the heavens down to earth. We know this cleft in the rock is a river because the artist has filled it with nagas and naginis, snake beings who live in water. and all the animals are facing the cleft, witnessing the great miracle. Shiva was so moved by Bhagirath's penance that he agreed to bear the force of the descent of the great river. In the Ganges, Bhagiratha bathed his ancestors' ashes in the holy waters to ensure their well-being in future lives. Ever since, the ultimate aim of Hindus has been to have their ashes immersed in the water of the Ganges or in other holy rivers. Is it Arjuna or Bhagiratha? Art historian Vidya Deheja has an interesting view.
Perhaps the sculptors intentionally left sufficient ambiguity in the sculpted tableau for the figure to be both Arjuna and Bhagiratha. After all, Dandin, who was the court poet of the Pallavas, wrote a double-meaning poem. It could be interpreted as either the Ramayana or the Mahabharata, depending on how you split the words and how you interpreted them. Perhaps this is the sculptural equivalent of a double-meaning poem. Perhaps, too, the work speaks in much more universal terms, in terms of spiritual evolution, in terms of the soul's karmically determined journey from lower forms of life, animal and human, to higher forms, saintly and celestial. And then, of course, there is the original dramatic intention of this work, which is surely a showpiece. It is the sound and light show of 13 centuries ago. On special festive occasions, to mark the arrival of the king or the visit of a foreign dignitary or the docking at the port of an overseas vessel, water could be let down from an artificial tank up on top of the cliff, and it would cascade all the way down and collect in the pool at the bottom. It was sort of the equivalent of turning on the fountains at the Taj Mahal or illuminating the entire Parthenon in Athens. Visitors to the site were intended to be overwhelmed by the spectacle and to applaud the king's magnificent creation. The mystery deepens when we consider this smaller relief nearby. It seems to be an unfinished work on exactly the same theme. Was it the work of lesser artists? Or could it have been a practice piece in a vast, immense outdoor workshop?
Directly behind the great penance cliff is the small but striking Varaha cave. It also may have been commissioned by Mamalla. Like the cliff, the cave has a small tank cut into the rock floor in front of it. On the cave walls are some remarkable reliefs. The earth, personified as a lovely young goddess, is being rescued from the cosmic sea by the god Vishnu, known as the protector and preserver. Vishnu, in his form as a snouted boar, lovingly nuzzles the breasts of the young goddess. On the opposite wall, Vishnu is shown as Trivikrama, striding across the earth with one step and across the heavens with the second. He will then place the third step on the head of a powerful demon king. Lakshmi is the wife of Vishnu and goddess of the earth's fertility and fortune. She is being bathed by elephants, symbolizing the rain clouds on which life depends. Durga, the warrior goddess and consort of Shiva, receives the ultimate sacrifice. A devotee prepares to cut off his own head. This type of penance was actually performed in the past. The tradition of stone cutting continues here today. Sculptors use the age-old technique squatting on the ground. But to work on an upright cliff to carve the great penance is something else altogether. The stone cutters say it would have taken 20 men 8 or 9 years to complete the project. Further down the beach is a site that looks very much like an outdoor sculptor's workshop.
It was probably Mamalla, the instigator of the great penance panel, who ordered a set of shrines to be carved from immense boulders lying in the sands. The result is a mini course in South Indian architecture, although only one of the shrines is complete and 2 are very unfinished indeed. This one is a stone rendition of a wooden hut with a thatched roof. It's dedicated to the goddess Durga. Her image is carved on the rear wall. And two of her female warriors guard the entrance. In the proportions of these slender figures with their elongated limbs and tall headdresses, we have the typical characteristics of the Pallava style of sculpture. Right out in front here is Durga's mount, the lion. But look at the manner in which the mount is gazing off into the distance instead of respectfully facing the goddess. If this had really been a sacred site, would the lion have been placed quite so casually? Next to it is the typical South Indian temple. It's crowned with the traditional rounded stupi unit, which is repeated in miniature at the corners of each of the lower levels, and in between are small barrel-vaulted units. What's exciting about this is that this is the very first time the southern style is seen. We could be at what is ground zero for the South Indian classical temple. The shrine is probably dedicated to the god Shiva, whom we see here, relaxed and leaning casually against his bull Nandi. But if this really is Shiva's shrine, why does the bull not face his lord and master? He's placed behind him, which is unheard of in a sacred context. Now this temple is juxtaposed with an animal in a most intriguing manner. It was probably in honor of one of two gods who rides an elephant, judging from this striking creature, and also from the elephants that flank the doorway. But it's the shape of this structure that makes it quite so special. Rectangular in front and circular at the rear with a barrel-vaulted roof, this shape is known in Indian architectural terminology as Gaja Prishta, meaning the rump of an elephant. And here it sits, right next to a carved elephant, rump to rump, so to say, creating a pun in stone. Rock-cut monoliths were carved from the top down, as we see clearly in this unfinished shrine. The top is quite detailed, but the interior is just roughed out. The sculptor seems to have been interrupted in the middle of his work. Here is a taller and more impressive version of the southern style with 3 levels of sculptured decoration. It's the only structure in the group to carry inscriptions. This dignified figure wearing a tall crown has the title Sri Narasimha engraved above his head. It seems that we may finally be meeting Mamalla himself. The second and third stories of this structure have complete shrine chambers in each. But the first and lowest level is incomplete, with the result that there are no stairs leading up to this second level. You can get here only if somebody brings you a ladder. Once here, stairs will lead up to the third level. But there seems to be something missing here, right up on top. Where is the pinnacle? This pinnacle is the only part of the rock-cut structure that was carved separately. If the temple had been complete, the pinnacle would have crowned the very top. Perhaps Mamalla died before work was complete. Perhaps his successors had new interests and different ideas on how to build temples. Certainly, the incomplete nature of the work deepens the mystery surrounding these extraordinary creations.
The next ruler, Parameshwara, continued to build at Mamallapuram, but in a new style. This temple on the southern end of the hill, with its slender columns and ornate carvings, was probably built by him. The real treasures are inside. One relief shows us Vishnu lying supported by the snake king on the milky ocean. As Vishnu dreams, 2 demons approach from the right to harm him. But Vishnu will wake, destroy them, and then create the world. Opposite is the battle between the beautiful warrior goddess Durga and the buffalo demon Mahisha, who had taken over the heavens. Aided by her troop of female warriors, she killed him and destroyed his army, some of whom are already dead or dying. A few kilometers north of Mamallapuram is a very unusual creation, the extraordinary Yali cave. The entrance is ornamented with huge yalis, mythical lion-like creatures. The rampant lions at the base of the pillars suggest the builder might have been Rajasimha, the last great Pallava builder at the end of the 7th century. We don't know the shrine's purpose. Perhaps it was used in a festival, in which a sacred image was brought from Mamallapuram to be placed in the niche to watch the celebration, and then returned to its home site. If Rajasimha's Yali cave seems completely unconventional, his majestic temple at Kanchipuram, the Pallava capital, is like seeing the Shastras, the ancient architectural treatises brought magnificently to life. Mount Kailash is Shiva's mountain home in the Himalayas. And Kailashnath, literally Lord of Mount Kailash, is a stone manifestation of all the forms of Shiva.
The wall that encloses the complex is made up on the interior of this series of mini shrines. Inside and between them are images either of Shiva or of his consort Uma, known also as Parvati. Many of them show Shiva as a family man, accompanied by Uma and their infant son Skanda, a theme that was a favorite with the Pallavas. Most of the images are sculpted, but recent conservation work has revealed early and exquisite paintings beneath the plaster added in later centuries. The complex was also something of a family undertaking. Rajasimha's son Mahendra contributed this small temple, while his queens built the mini shrines immediately outside. Visualized as both destroyer and resurrector, Shiva may be thought of as representing nature's permanent power of renewal. On the exterior of the central shrine are 7 sub-shrines, each containing an image of Shiva almost 10 feet high. These monumental depictions emphasize Rajasimha's devotion to this god, who is still the most popular in South India. We see him as dancer, generating the play of life and death with the gestures of his hands and feet. Or he may appear as the enchanting mendicant, playing his flute to charm all the women of the town. He receives the Ganges in his hair, breaking its fall from heaven so that it does not crush the earth. Or with a single arrow, he destroys the forts of 3 demons. In this dedicatory inscription, Rajasimha proudly proclaimed that he had erected a temple so glorious that it resembled the fame and the laughter of Shiva. All along the base of these mini shrines, Rajasimha has left us with more inscriptions. Over 250 titles in which he describes himself, his glory, and his regal personality. Each inscription is repeated 4 times on 4 different levels and in 4 very different varieties of script. He is one of unrivaled beauty, proud as a bull, an ocean of bravery, unstintingly generous, one who keeps his subjects close to his heart. He writes sweet-sounding poetry, rivals the musicians of the gods, is ever active, and is an ocean of the arts, Kala Samudra. Perhaps the most intriguing and revealing of his titles is Atyanta Kama, meaning one of endless fancies or desires, a title befitting a truly imaginative monarch.
Kailashnath is Rajasimha's most dazzling accomplishment, the shore temple at Mamallapuram is the most haunting. The two towers rising so close to the shore have inspired people for centuries to imagine a lost stone city beneath the waves. For many years, the ocean lapped at the eastern steps of the temple, but a modern sea wall protects it for the future. Recent archaeological work revealed an ancient sea wall, suggesting that once the waves pounded on the west as well. Perhaps the shore temple was once an island. That is one more mystery that may never be solved. After Rajasimha's time, the Pallavas never built at Mamallapuram again. We don't know why, and possibly we never will. Riddles don't need to be solved to be enjoyed. Mamallapuram's treasures will endure, even as their mysteries persist.